It's no secret parts of West Michigan are heavily influenced by the Dutch culture, right? We all know this by now. And we also know that in the Dutch culture, windmills serve so many different vital purposes to their livelihood. I think you know where I'm going with this by now. Today, Troy and I take on the Windmill Island Gardens. A dedication to the Dutch, a nod to the Netherlands. Nestled on 36 acres on the northeast end of Holland is a seasonal park surrounded by the Maketela River, providing a proper peek into Dutch culture. From the architecture...
That orphanage was built in the Netherlands, was 1613.
This specific orphanage that this replica is based off of.
Exactly.
To the attractions...
This carousel was actually brought from the Netherlands in the 1970s.
And the attire. Matt, before we get into anything about the Windmill Island Gardens, which I can't wait to learn about, we gotta talk about the fit here.
Mine is called a North Holland work costume. It would have been a working class costume, topped off, of course, by the Klumpen at the end, the wooden shoes, which are comfortable. I'm telling you, you gotta try them out later.
The Klumpen are comfortable. I don't know if I believe you, so I'll have to check it out for myself. The Dutch have a heavy influence on West Michigan, especially in Holland. Matt says it can be traced all the way back to the late 1840s. Reverend Albertus van Raalte and his group of Dutch Calvinists came to America to seek religious freedom and found a home in Holland. That was 175 years ago, and they just kept coming.
So we have, it's actually almost 250,000 Dutch Americans, such as myself.
Wow.
A lot of us multi-generation Americans, obviously, by now. But a lot of us look back to that heritage. There's some more recent immigrants, but it's just keeping a piece of that heritage alive.
In order to truly immerse myself in the culture, I wanted to get a taste of that heritage. I'm throwing on the Klumpen, the comfortable Klumpen, as you so claim.
Wear them around all day, right?
That is the plan. I wouldn't have put them on otherwise.
I'm not going to say they feel like slippers, but they stick on pretty well.
Usain Bolt. Sprinting our way straight to the centerpiece of the park, a giant 8-story windmill. And that windmill specifically is 251 years old, which brings us all the way back to 1771, 5 years before we signed the Declaration of Independence, just to put that into perspective. And it seems like that is kind of what this entire park was built around.
It is. That was the island itself was actually built for that windmill, and then we've just developed around it. And it's so neat. There's parts and pieces of that mill that are actually older than that. Our millwright was here recently, and he found a part he thinks might date back from the 13th century, because our mill was built from pieces of other mills. So that's kind of how they did. It's like building a car. The
make and model on this machine is half domestic and half foreign. The wood structure up top was brought over from the Netherlands, and the brick base was built here in America. And it has a name, De Zwaan, or the Swan.
There's a lot of different windmill names. There was multiple mills in the Netherlands named the Swan, so some of them will say the Swan and then the town they're from to kind of make sure that people know it's not the Swan from another town.
De Zwaan de Holland.
De Zwaan de Holland. Ours was De Zwaan Winkel. It was the small town in the province of North Brabant that it was from. So we have a working relationship with that town now. They had actually called over a decade ago asking for this mill back. And we said no, of course, since it's the heart of our community, but they've since built their own mill, so we have a sister mill in the Netherlands.
The Netherlands has more than 1,000 windmills. De Zwaan was brought over to West Michigan in 1964 and opened up to the public a year later.
So these are actually bullet holes from World War II. So they came over with the windmill in the 60s, and we replaced them after that and got all new blades in 2000.
Each of those blades are 80 feet long, crossing in the middle. And it's not just for show. This is the only Dutch windmill that operates in the entire United States.
This is where farmers would have come in and dropped off their grain to the miller, and they could actually, there was a grain elevator that they brought it all the way up to the top of the mill by the mill stones by using wind power. So they could drop it off here and then send it back down.
When they mill, Matt says they usually throw a couple of bags of grain in there at a time, which weighs about 100 pounds.
This is where I said that there's this grain elevator. This is the top of it. It pops through here. We get the grain. We throw it in the hopper, and it gets ground by the power of the mill. This equipment is hundreds of years old, and to imagine how precise it had to be, you know, it's lubricated with beeswax, not with oil and things like that. So it's just an amazing machine. And it works its way down here to be packaged. This actually takes way longer than actually grinding does. Because again, we package in cutesy little bags, you know, 1-2 pound bags, so visitors can bring them home. Back then, they would have just put it in like a 50 or 100 pound sack. So times have changed a bit. And nothing highlights that more than your view from the 4th floor, standing in the past
and looking at the present.
And we like to tell people across the way here, that's Holland's new natural gas plant. So that's how they produce power now. And this is how they used to produce power, was using windmills, using water mills.
And this whole park is powered by the people. Not too long ago, they only had 40,000 visitors in a full season. And Matt says at one point, they were very close to shutting the entire thing down. But they have since seen a resurgence, setting a new record with 130,000 visitors last year and well on their way to breaking that again this year.
The last few years, we've been having awesome attendance. Our staff has been great. We're just building new things to invite people out here, and we're seeing people take us up on that.
We all know Tulip Time is a big draw, of course, but that only covers about 10 days of the season. So they're trying to get creative to keep people coming back. Things like a new winter attraction.
This is where you'll see a tulip field of LED lights with a music and light show the first 3 weekends of December.
A permanent tulip grove.
You can see we're in the process of planting them and painting them, but then we'll develop a nice grove area here.
And a water pumping mill.
The Netherlands, literally the name means lowlands. So you can see the guys there are turning what in Dutch we call a vijzel. It's really a water screw. It draws water all the way up using this screw, and it can be pumped out or pumped in a new canal. They want to push it out and push it back out into the ocean.
Matt says there's so much to share about the Dutch culture, but just like they do at museums in the Netherlands, they chose to highlight a specific slice of that history.
So we try and show a segment of time from the Netherlands about when this community was founded in the 1840s, 1850s. So that's why costumes like these date from that period. You won't catch Dutch people wearing these around today. They dress way more modern than we do.
That's too bad.
No, I know. Hey, it still looks good.
Here at the Gardens, that segment of time revolves around 3 Dutch treasures: the windmill, the carousel,
And it was a traveling carousel there, but that would go in fairs, so it'd move around every weekend.
and the organ.
How long has this thing been around? This is from World War II, it looks like, also.
So this actually predates the island itself. So during World War II, or after World War II, the city of Holland and its citizens donated clothing and food and money back to the Netherlands. And as a way to say thank you, a couple years later, the city of Amsterdam, they collected money, bought this organ from an organ grinder, and sent it to the city of Holland as a way to say thank you.
This organ is about 100 years old. It was used in Tulip Time parades for a while, then sat silent for years before it was rebuilt, and now it works. So we had to hear it for ourselves.
Find you a good Dutch song here.
And the technology behind this beast will blow your mind. Well, at least it did for me.
It's a book?
It's a book.
No way.
Yeah. So it
Look
plays.
at that.
There's keys in the organ here, and they read the different parts of the book that tell them the different parts of the organ to play, as well as what notes to play. So we bring it in here. We'll close down the arm. I'll flip my switch, and the organ will play.
Each one of those books costs several $100s and has to be arranged for the specific type of organ and key. And this here is the perfect pitch to put you in the heart of Dutch culture.
So thank you for leading us around today.
Yeah.
And I think it's only fitting that we take a Fox 17 unfiltered selfie here with the windmill in the background, of course. 3, 2, 1. Well, as I'm clomping around, I can look back on the day that we have had here at the Windmill Island Gardens, a literal bridge between West Michigan and Holland. It's an incredible property, and we didn't just move through the mitten today, we milled through the mitten today. Tot ziens. Until next time. And of course, talking about Dutch culture here in West Michigan would not be complete without mentioning Tulip Time. Even though the festival is not until next spring, long ways away, it's time now to get your creative juices flowing, because organizers are already taking submissions for the 2023 Tulip Time poster. It's called the First Bloom Poster Competition. You have until September 28th to submit your entries, and they should all be centered around the theme to celebrate Holland's tulips, Dutch heritage, and the ever-growing diversity of our community. As you heard in the story, you might want to include one of the 3 Dutch treasures, the windmills, a carousel, and the organs, just to give you some inspiration there. Entries will be narrowed down to the top 20, and then one winner will be chosen and unveiled in February. For $35, artists can submit up to 3 different pieces. Tulip Time runs May 6th through the 14th of next year. And speaking of art, young aspiring artists can try their hand at spray paint art as well in Battle Creek this week. It's all part of Youth Day for Color the Creek. And while Youth Day officially is on Wednesday, this whole event kicked off today and it runs all week long. There's food, there's vendors, plus this is the coolest part, you can watch artists as they are actively painting murals, both big ones and small ones, and it's happening all throughout the city. This is the 6th year for the festival. To check out the full lineup, visit Color the Creek's Facebook page. Well, we had a pretty cool and rainy weekend, but if the weather today is any indication, I think it's shaping up to be a pretty nice and beautiful work week. Haley Vaughn is in the Weather Center with a forecast.
Thanks, Max. Tonight we're expected to have an overnight low of 56 degrees, mostly clear skies and patchy fog. Leading ahead to the rest of our forecast tonight, those temperatures are really going to be quite chilly. Many locations across the Midwest and West Michigan will be falling into the 50s, so you're able to turn off the AC tonight. Tomorrow we'll see a daytime high temperature of 81 degrees with mostly sunny skies and the stray pop-up possibility of a stray shower east of US 131, but it's going to be another beautiful, comfortable day with most of us seeing that sunshine. Looking ahead to Wednesday and Thursday, a very similar situation. We just have the best weather here in West Michigan all week long, perfect to do all of our outdoor activities. 81 on Wednesday, 82 on Thursday, comfortable and seasonal both days. Now coming up, we're going to be talking about the different cloud types. I'm sure you've seen most of these across West Michigan. We're going to be talking about the different levels of them and where you might see some of these clouds coming up in just a little bit.
Up next, a new coffee shop coming to Grand Rapids. We check out the plans and tell you when Scooters is expected to open.
That's because it starts at the low levels and then it starts to climb up towards the high levels. And the higher it goes, usually the stronger the cumulonimbus is, and typically the stronger the thunderstorm. So if you ever start to see the cirrus clouds on the fair weather days, that's usually where we have those thin wispy clouds. The cirrostratus also pretty similar. The altostratus and the altocumulus, you might see just a little bit more density to them. But anything related to the stratus, the stratocumulus, and the cumulus, that usually means that we have a really nice fair weather day. So a beautiful stretch of those clouds, and maybe next time you're out in West Michigan looking up at the sky, that's something that you can take into account. Stay tuned with Fox 17. We're going to be talking more about the chance for those higher level wispy clouds and some fair weather that we have coming up in our forecast on Fox 17 at 10 and 11.
A man in Metro Detroit playing music at local senior centers. After the break, the personal story that inspired him to get this all started.